The transmission arrived without warning. No build-up, no demand for negotiations, not even a hint of diplomacy. Just a sudden override of every signal across Earth and its orbitals, from children's cartoons to military channels. Screens went black. Static filled the air. Then the image appeared. A towering figure with scales the color of old bronze filled the broadcast. His armor gleamed like hammered gold, shoulders spiked, his face shaped into a perpetual snarl. Behind him stretched a hall of obsidian stone, lined with banners etched in alien glyphs. The figure leaned forward, voice booming through speakers and implants alike. "Humans! You will kneel! Your planet belongs to the Threx Dominion. Resist, and you will be annihilated!" The feed cut. Silence followed. For 3 heartbeats the world seemed to hold its breath. Entire continents waited, stunned. Then laughter erupted. It started with a snicker from a late-night anchor who forgot his mic was live. That chuckle carried across feeds before control teams could mute him. By then, it was too late. Memes exploded onto the net within minutes. The alien snarling face photoshopped onto cereal boxes, cartoon dragons, karaoke singers. Hashtags bloomed like wildfire. Hashtag Scaly Santa. Hashtag Bow Before This. Hashtag Space Lizard Problems. Across Orbital Station Tantalus, Captain Mara Ellison watched the chaos unfold from the command deck. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, lips twitching. The crew around her laughed openly, their voices clashing with the usually rigid hum of the station. Not exactly the fear response he wanted. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Havel, muttered. Mara smirked. He wanted to terrify us. Instead, he became the punchline of a billion jokes. Poor bastard. On the central screen, a live news overlay replayed the alien broadcast beside the fastest rising meme, the alien overlord's scowling face pasted onto a rubber duck, crown tilted sideways. Caption: All hail Quackrath. People aren't taking this seriously, Havel said, though even his tone carried amusement. They are, Mara replied. Just not in the way he thinks. This is what serious looks like for humans. Laugh first. Then fight. Her words masked the flicker of tension beneath her calm surface. She knew what was coming. No empire sent a threat that public without a fleet already on the way. And the Threx Dominion wasn't just posturing. Their history was written in blood and ruined planets. A soft chime signaled an incoming encrypted channel. Mara gestured, and the main display shifted to show the grim face of Admiral Chen, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Fleet. His dark eyes scanned the deck behind her, then locked on Mara. You saw the transmission? Yes, sir. Chen's voice was steady, but the weight behind it pressed like a stone. Scouts confirm multiple Dominion vessels inbound, mass signatures beyond Saturn. They'll reach Mars orbit within weeks. Mara straightened, humor slipping away. How many ships? Too many for a conventional fight, Chen admitted. But they don't know us. They don't know what we'll do when pressed. Mara nodded once. That was the unspoken truth. Humanity wasn't united by governments or banners. It was united by spite, by a streak of defiance that burned hotter than fear. The Dominion thought Earth fractured and weak. They had no idea what Mockery could do when sharpened into a blade. The feed cut. Mara exhaled slowly, aware of her crew's eyes. All right, she said, voice firm. Prep defensive arrays. Double patrols. Put every cadet in sims until their eyes bleed. If the Dominion wants us kneeling, they're going to trip on our laughter before they even reach orbit. Havel arched a brow. That's our strategy? Humor? Humor, Mara replied. And rail guns. But the humor hits first. The crew chuckled, but their hands moved quickly over consoles, activating station defenses, redirecting satellites, tightening patrol grids. Laughter kept the fear at bay, but discipline drove their hands. Far across space, Overlord Karath Velox seethed in his command chamber. The laughter had reached him too. His declaration, crafted with the precision of a conqueror's creed, sharpened across centuries of conquest, was now mocked by an infant species. His clawed hands dug furrows into the armrests of his throne. They laugh, he growled. Instead of begging, they mock. His war council shifted uneasily. One dared to speak. Perhaps it is a mask, Supreme One. Fear disguised as jest. Karath bared fangs. Then we will rip away the mask. Ready the fleet. By the time I am done, their laughter will die with their cities. On Tantalus, Mara's private quarters were lit only by the glow of data streams. She sat with a mug of cold coffee, scrolling through feeds. Clips of the alien overlord played on loop, but each was twisted, remixed, mocked. Animated parodies. Pop songs with his growl auto-tuned. Kids reenacting the speech with cardboard helmets. She shook her head. For a moment she let herself smile. Humor had always been humanity's first weapon, even in its darkest hours. When bombs fell, people still told jokes. When skies burned, they still sang. And now, facing an empire that spanned stars, humanity laughed as if to say, "You can't scare us. We've been through worse." Her console beeped. A message from EarthGov: mobilize. Prepare for full engagement. Mara drained her coffee, set the mug down with finality, and rose. She looked out the viewport, past the shimmer of the station shields, down to the blue curve of Earth. Billions of lives spun below, flawed, chaotic, irreverent lives. She thought of the laughter still echoing across networks, and felt the ember of determination flare into fire. "Let's give them a war," she murmured, "and let's make them regret ever trying to silence our laughter." With that, she stepped back onto the command deck. The war had begun. The weeks after the Dominion's declaration were unlike anything Earth had faced. Not panic. Not silence. Something stranger. Earth's networks drowned in laughter. Entire comedy troops shifted overnight into war propaganda units, cranking out skits ridiculing the alien overlord. Hackers rerouted Dominion probes to broadcast stand-up routines instead of tactical data. Even schoolchildren filmed videos, pretending to kneel, only to burst out laughing and fall over dramatically. It wasn't mindless humor. It was strategy. Captain Mara Ellison stood before the holomap in Tantalus's war room, hands clasped behind her back. Blue holographic Earth hung at the center, rings of orbital platforms and defense satellites orbiting like sparks around a flame. Beyond, crimson markers bled inward from the edge of the solar system, the Dominion fleet pushing closer with every passing day. Her officers ringed the table, waiting. "Conventional defense won't hold," Mara said. "They outnumber us 5-1. They expect us to crumble. So we won't fight the war they expect." Lieutenant Havel tilted his head. "You mean psychological strikes?" Mara's lips curled. "Exactly. We'll hit them before they ever fire a shot. Not with cannons. With laughter." The room murmured. Commander Yara, grizzled and skeptical, frowned. "Captain, humor isn't a shield against plasma beams." "No," Mara said, "but it's a weapon against morale. Armies don't fight well when they think their enemy is laughing at them. So we'll give them no silence, no fear, only mockery on every channel they can hear." The officers exchanged looks. Then, one by one, nods followed. "Operational codename?" Havel asked. Mara allowed herself a grin. "Operation Punchline." It began with satellites. Dozens of low-orbit comms relays, normally tasked with weather data or news, were repurposed. Instead of broadcasting human chatter, they fired directed beams straight into the Dominion's encrypted channels. Alien officers expecting tactical updates instead found themselves staring at animated videos. The Overlord's snarl looped to the beat of Old Earth disco. The first reports back from intelligence confirmed what Mara had suspected. Confusion. Then irritation. Then frustration. Alien discipline faltered when their revered leader was mocked endlessly. Karath Veilok raged aboard his flagship. The War Council gathered beneath his throne as distorted human laughter echoed through the chamber's comm systems. Each attempt to lock the channel only produced another feed, sometimes cartoons, sometimes crude sketches of him with oversized teeth. "They mock us," Karath spat, tail lashing against the floor. Shut it down! One officer bowed deeply. We have tried, Supreme One. Their networks multiply like vermin. For every channel we block, 10 more appear. Karath slammed a clawed fist into the arm of his throne. Then burn them from orbit. Silence their insolence when we reach their world. But silence had already become impossible. On Earth, Operation Punchline grew beyond military control. Civilians joined in. Hackers hijacked billboards to display Dominion soldiers tripping over banana peels. Comedians uploaded skits that spread faster than government alerts. Entire continents began competing to see who could humiliate the aliens most creatively. Mara scrolled through the feeds late one night in her quarters, exhausted yet unable to look away. One video showed a group of miners on Ceres reenacting the Dominion's declaration speech using inflatable lizard costumes and garden tools as weapons. Another displayed a global concert where musicians turned the Overlord's voice into a chorus, chanting nonsense syllables until crowds roared with laughter. It wasn't just comedy. It was defiance woven into culture. Back on Tantalus, preparations for the actual fight never stopped. Crews loaded plasma batteries. Railguns were recalibrated. Orbital drones drilled relentlessly, simulating impossible maneuvers until their circuits strained. Mara paced the deck as her officers reported progress. Orbital Array 12 is back online. Mining colonies confirmed. They'll supply munitions for at least 3 months. Civilian networks keep flooding the Dominion channels without any official coordination. Mara stopped. Good. Let it stay that way. They'll expect top-down propaganda. They won't understand bottom-up chaos. Havel gave a half-smile. So our people fight with jokes while we fire the cannons. Exactly, Mara said. Both hit where it hurts. Tantalus's crew found their spirits rising with every day of ridicule. Instead of fear, laughter filled the mess halls. Soldiers who once dreaded news updates now eagerly checked feeds for the newest parody. The more absurd the jokes became, the more confident they felt. In one briefing, Mara showed her officers a report from intelligence intercepts. A Dominion squadron had nearly mutinied when their commander was mocked by name in a viral Earth song. The tune, translated and replayed across Dominion comms, had been impossible to erase. See? Mara told her officers. They're cracking. An empire that can't stand laughter can't stand a war with us. Still, tension grew as the crimson markers on the holomap crept closer to the inner system. Each passing day narrowed the gap. Every laugh was shadowed by the knowledge that soon, real ships would clash. Mara felt it most in the silence after briefings, when her crew dispersed and she was left with the map glowing in the dark. She would stare at the red tide pushing inward and wonder how long laughter could hold the line before the first beam of plasma carved across Earth's defenses. But fear never chained her. It only sharpened resolve. One night, Havel found her on the observation deck. Stars burned beyond the shielded glass, silent and eternal. Earth hung below, a swirl of blues and greens wrapped in the faint glow of atmosphere. You should rest, Havel said quietly. Mara didn't turn. Rest when they're gone. He leaned against the railing. You really believe humor can win this war? Mara's voice was calm. I believe it's the first strike. Guns win battles. Laughter wins resolve. And resolve will keep Earth standing long after their empire rots. Havel studied her face, saw the steel beneath the smile, and nodded. Meanwhile, Dominion officers filed report after report to Karath. They described human networks as uncontainable, human soldiers as undisciplined yet unpredictable, human civilians as uncontrollable but unified in mockery. The Overlord crushed the last report in his claw. Then we will not simply destroy their fleets, he growled. We will obliterate their spirit. If they will not kneel, we will grind them into dust. But his words rang hollow in chambers still echoing with the sound of stolen human laughter. Back on Tantalus, Mara addressed her crew before the final preparation drills. Listen up, she said, standing tall in the command deck. They think we're weak. They think we're fractured. They think laughter makes us fools. They're wrong. Laughter makes us unbreakable. When their fleets arrive, we'll fight with everything we have, railguns, drones, cannons, and we'll keep laughing while we do it. That's what makes us human. That's what will keep us alive. A cheer erupted. The sound shook the deck more fiercely than any bombardment. Operation Punchline had become more than strategy. It was identity. Humanity's refusal to bow. The Dominion fleet arrived sooner than expected. Their ships slid from dark space at the edge of Mars' orbit, hundreds of massive hulls reflecting faint sunlight, weapons glowing with cold precision. To the human eye, they looked like jagged fortresses pulled from a nightmare, spires of obsidian metal bristling with cannons. On Tantalus, alarms blared. The command deck shifted from routine drills to full combat readiness. Captain Mara Ellison stood at the center, calm under the flashing red glow. Report. Lieutenant Havel's voice was clipped. 70 Dominion warships confirmed. Escorts screening their flanks. No civilian signatures. They came to kill, not occupy. Mara studied the holomap. Earth's defense fleet was smaller by half, their ships stretched thin across inter-system stations. Still, the Threx didn't know how humans fought. That ignorance was her advantage. She tapped the console. Relay to Admiral Chen, engaging at Mars perimeter. Tantalus will coordinate drone swarms. Orders rippled out. Across the system, ships stirred from hidden orbits, drones booted into formation, cannons angled toward red horizon. The first battle of the war was about to begin. Karath Velok loomed on the bridge of his flagship, satisfied at the spread of his forces. Earth's defenses looked pitiful, scattered vessels, outdated orbital guns, drones that seemed fragile against his armada. His officers bowed, awaiting commands. Advance, Karath said coldly. Crush their outposts. Scatter their fleets. Leave no doubt of Dominion strength. The fleet surged forward. Mara's voice rang clear over open comms. All units, remember this, they expect us to fight fair. So don't. Give them chaos. Give them tricks. Make them regret stepping foot in our system. A chorus of affirmatives filled her headset. The first Dominion salvos streaked across the void, plasma bolts bright as suns. Human ships scattered. Instead of holding formation, they broke into erratic patterns, zigzags, spirals, loops that seemed almost reckless. From his throne, Karath frowned. What are they doing? Their formation is collapsing. His second-in-command studied the screens. It is deliberate. They move like... Before he could finish, a dozen Dominion warships shuddered. Explosions blossomed across their hulls. Hidden mines, disguised as space debris, had detonated as the fleet advanced. Mara smirked. First punch landed. Havel exhaled. They'll learn quick. Then we'll hit quicker, Mara replied. The skies above Mars erupted. Human drones swarmed in clusters, smaller than Dominion fighters but faster, darting between beams and unleashing coordinated strikes. They didn't fight in rigid lines, they fought like schools of fish, weaving unpredictably. Dominion ships tried to lock on but failed. For every drone shot down, 3 more slid beneath their shields and detonated at close range. On Earth, billions watched live feeds of the battle. Cheers erupted in crowded cities as Dominion ships burned against the crimson backdrop of Mars. Hashtags bloomed in real time. Hashtag Martian Mayhem. Hashtag Lizard Barbecue. Hashtag First Laugh. Inside Tantalus, tension sharpened. Commander Yara reported. Outer ring drones down to 30%. Railguns holding, but they're pressing hard. Mara scanned the field. The Dominion pressed forward, sheer numbers grinding against human unpredictability. Victory wasn't about brute force. It was about buying time, proving Earth could bleed them. She keyed the comm. Squadron 6, peel off. Lure them toward Phobos. Copy, Captain. The squadron veered toward the Martian moon, engines blazing. Dominion ships pursued, confident in their strength. They didn't see the trap until too late. Buried in Phobos's crust were retrofitted mining lasers, hidden weeks earlier by Mara's orders. As the Dominion ships drew near, the moon lit up like a blade. Beams sliced through alien hulls, splitting ships apart in dazzling arcs of fire. Cheers echoed across Tantalus's deck. Havel grinned. They'll think twice about chasing us now. They won't think, Mara said. Arrogance doesn't think. It only assumes. Karatha's tail lashed in fury. The battle was not unfolding as expected. His enemy's ships should have shattered by now, their drones scattered. Instead, his fleet was losing ground to unpredictable strikes and humiliating tricks. They mock us in battle as they do in words, Karath snarled. Tear them apart! But his commands only fed the chaos. Dominion formations grew sloppy as they chased scattered targets. The humans exploited every mistake. On Tantalus, Mara leaned close to the display. They're angry. Good. Anger makes them clumsy. Keep feeding them distractions. Yara hesitated. Captain, casualties on our side are climbing. Drones nearly spent. Mara's jaw tightened. Sacrifices were inevitable. But victory wasn't always measured in survival. Sometimes it was measured in defiance. Hold the line, she ordered. The Dominion pressed harder, their weapons carving through the thinning drone swarms. Several human frigates shattered under plasma fire, wreckage scattering across the void. On Earth, the feeds grew quieter as families watched loved ones vanish in burning light. Mara forced herself not to look away. Each loss etched itself into her resolve. Every ship destroyed was another reason never to surrender. Hours dragged, the battle raging in waves. Finally, Dominion forces began pulling back from Mars' orbit, regrouping into defensive posture. Smoke and debris trailed their retreating hulls. Dozens of ships lost. Havel exhaled in disbelief. We held them. We actually held. Mara allowed herself a thin smile. Not victory. Not yet. But proof. Proof of what? She looked out the viewport at Mars, the red horizon streaked with wreckage. Proof we won't break. Karath glared at the tactical screens aboard his flagship. His fleet had lost more ships in one engagement than in entire campaigns elsewhere. The humans' tactics made no sense, illogical, wasteful, yet devastating. They are reckless vermin, one officer said. If they fight like this always, their end will be inevitable. Karatha's claws scraped metal. No. They are worse. They are unpredictable. He bared his fangs. And unpredictability is dangerous. Back on Tantalus, the aftermath carried a mix of triumph and grief. Crews moved with heavy steps, aware of losses but proud of survival. In the mess hall, laughter returned, not mocking the dead, but honoring them. Stories of daring maneuvers already spread, turning fallen pilots into legends. Mara stood with Havel, surveying her weary crew. They expected an easy conquest. Instead, they found a fight that won't end with one battle. Havel nodded. They'll come back stronger. Then so will we. She raised her voice, drawing the deck's attention. Today we stood against an empire that thought us weak. We fought with blood, steel, and laughter. And we proved one thing: humanity doesn't kneel. Not to threats. Not to fleets. Not to anyone. The deck erupted in cheers. Mara let the sound wash over her. For the first time since the declaration, hope burned brighter than fear. The war had only begun, but Earth had shown the galaxy that its spirit was no joke. The battle above Mars left scars on every screen. Families replayed the footage again and again, seeing human frigates shatter, Dominion hulks burning red against the planet's sky. The price had been steep, but survival itself became a victory. Humanity had faced the threat's dominion and endured. On Earth, something shifted. Nations long divided by politics, resources, and old rivalries began reaching across lines. Not because treaties forced them, but because laughter and grief now bound them. Captain Mara Ellison stood in the command deck of Tantalus, watching feeds from EarthGov's emergency council. Leaders from across continents appeared on split screens, voices colliding. Some demanded stronger defenses, others begged for evacuation corridors. But beneath the arguments ran a new current: determination. They've seen we can stand. Mara said quietly. Now they'll remember what unity looks like. Lieutenant Havel, standing at her shoulder, frowned. Unity hasn't been Earth's strong suit. Until now, Mara replied. The Dominion just handed us a common enemy. Across the planet, proof spread in small ways. Hackers from rival networks pooled resources to sustain Operation Punchline. Their code stitched together, filling Dominion comm channels with relentless streams of parody. In South America, musicians collaborated on a global anthem, mocking the Dominion in a dozen languages. Students in Lagos and Mumbai turned public squares into open-air comedy stages, defiance masquerading as entertainment. Even in grief, humanity found strength. Cities held vigils for lost soldiers, candles flickering against night skies. In those same squares, people laughed through tears, retelling jokes the fallen had once shared. Mourning and mockery blurred into the same act of survival. On Tantalus, Mara convened her senior officers. Commander Yara's face was lined with fatigue, but her voice held steady. Repairs on our outer drone nets are nearly complete. Mining colonies confirmed. They're diverting our shipments into weapons production. Civilian hackers remain unpredictable. Mara leaned forward. Good. Unpredictability is our edge. The Dominion doesn't understand chaos. Yara exhaled slowly. Admiral Chen's message said EarthGov wants negotiations explored. They fear escalation. Havel scoffed. Negotiate with lizards who threaten to burn us to ash? That's not diplomacy, that's suicide. Mara's eyes narrowed. EarthGov is afraid. Fear is natural. But if they think fear will save us, they're wrong. The Dominion doesn't respect surrender. Only defiance. Silence hung in the room until Havel spoke. Then we keep mocking them. We keep fighting. Mara nodded. And we show our people that defiance works. Far from Earth, Overlord Karath seethed on his flagship. Reports of mutiny within lesser squadrons filtered in, junior officers humiliated by human ridicule, discipline breaking under mockery. His war council urged harsher measures, yet their voices carried doubt. Karatha's claws scraped deep grooves into his throne. They think laughter shields them. We will crush their unity. We will drown their jokes in fire. But his fury only deepened the cracks within his own fleet. Soldiers whispered about humans with both fear and awe. How could such a fractured world wound an empire fleet? How could jokes unravel discipline drilled for centuries? Back on Tantalus, Mara toured the mess hall. Her crew was tired, bruised, some mourning, but their laughter still sparked like kindling. Two engineers showed her a crude animation projected on a bulkhead, Karatha's snarling face edited into a puppet dancing to a children's tune. The room erupted in cheers. Mara smiled faintly. She knew the Dominion monitored civilian and military feeds alike. Every joke reaching alien eyes was another fracture driven into their morale. Havel approached her after the projection. You think this humor can really carry us through? It's not just humor, Mara said. It's proof we're unbroken. Every laugh tells them they failed to scare us. That's what holds us together. Human unity grew not from orders, but from defiance turned culture. Civilians hacked Dominion's supply chains, rerouting cargo drones to drop relief packages across besieged colonies. Comedians disguised transmissions as battlefield reports, slipping taunts into enemy channels. Even school programs shifted, teaching children to sing parody songs during air raid drills. The Dominion had expected panic, but what they found was stubborn creativity. Mara spent long nights in her quarters, studying tactical data. Losses were heavy, and more battles loomed. She replayed combat footage of human ships weaving against Dominion salvos, improvisation at its deadliest. Reckless, yes, but impossible to predict. Her console buzzed with a private message from Admiral Chen. EarthGov is pressing again for negotiation. They want you to draft contingency terms. Mara stared at the words, jaw tightening. She knew EarthGov's fear came from good intentions. They wanted survival at any cost. But survival without freedom was slavery. The Dominion would never honor peace with the people who laughed at them. She keyed a reply, we hold. No negotiations. Every day we stand is another crack in their empire. Meanwhile, Dominion forces probed Earth's outer defenses. Skirmishes flared at asteroid colonies, drone fleets clashing in silent bursts of fire. In one encounter, a group of civilian miners hijacked Dominion comms mid-battle, broadcasting a stand-up routine mocking alien eating habits. The Dominion fighters faltered, discipline unraveling, and human defenders forced them into retreat. The story spread faster than the battle report. Soon, miners across colonies styled themselves as comedians as well as soldiers. Defiance had become infectious. On the observation deck of Tantalus, Mara stood with Havel, watching Earth's curve glitter against the dark. Cities pulsed with light, networks alive with humor and grief braided into one. "You realize," Havel said softly, "this is bigger than one fleet. Bigger than Mars. We've woken something." Mara's gaze never left the planet. "Yes. The Dominion wanted to break us. Instead, they made us remember what we are. Not governments. Not factions. People. And people united by defiance are unstoppable." He gave a tired laugh. "That almost sounded hopeful." "It is," Mara said simply. Later that night, Mara addressed her crew and Earth civilians in a broadcast. Her face filled screens from orbit to underground shelters. "Humanity has always been underestimated," she began. "Empires thought us weak, divided, too fractured to stand. The Dominion came expecting us to beg. Instead, we laughed. They thought fear would silence us. Instead, we made them hear our voices in every channel, every joke, every act of defiance. That is who we are. We don't kneel. We endure. And together, we will show them that no empire can conquer humanity's spirit." Applause roared across ships, stations, and cities. Families cheered through tears. Hackers patched her speech into Dominion comms, forcing Karatha's officers to listen to every word. Karath raged when the broadcasts reached his fleet. He smashed consoles, tore banners, roared threats. But nothing silenced the echoes of human laughter filling his halls. His officers averted their eyes, unwilling to show fear but unable to ignore the creeping unease. The Dominion had expected conquest. Instead, they faced a people weaponizing ridicule, unity forged from irreverence. The Dominion's main fleet entered Earth's orbit under a curtain of fire. Hundreds of warships descended like a wall of night, their hulls bristling with weapons, their engines tearing the darkness with streaks of molten light. On Tantalus, alarms thundered. Crew rushed between consoles, their faces pale but resolute. Captain Mara Ellison stood at the center of the storm, voice firm and steady. "Status." Lieutenant Havel snapped out numbers. 200 Dominion vessels confirmed. They've split into 3 divisions: North Polar Orbit, Equatorial Sweep, and a direct plunge. They want simultaneous strikes. Mara studied the holomap. Red markers swarmed Earth like hornets. Blue defenses, orbital cannons, defense frigates, drone swarms, looked fragile by comparison. She exhaled slowly. "Then we bleed them on all fronts." Earth below trembled under the first assault. Plasma bolts rained against orbital shields, great arcs of energy flaring like auroras across the skies. Civilians stared upward from city streets, watching the heavens blaze with fire. Mara's voice cut through every military channel. "Listen carefully. They expect us to scatter. They expect us to fear their numbers. Instead, we give them confusion. Break formations. Hit and fade. Every ship is a knife. Every drone is a spark. Make them chase ghosts." Orders rippled out. Fleets dissolved into erratic spirals, ships darting in patterns that defied calculation. Drones swarmed in chaotic clouds, weaving between enemy cannons, detonating against hulls. Karath Velok watched from his throne, confident at first. The humans' movements seemed clumsy, wasteful. But as minutes stretched, confidence turned sour. Dominion ships collided chasing phantom targets. Their formations unraveled, firepower scattered across empty void. "What trickery is this?" Karath growled. One officer bowed. They do not fight with formation, Supreme One. They improvise. Karatha's tail lashed. Then crushed their improvisation with overwhelming force. But overwhelming force scattered uselessly when it could not pin its target. On Tantalus, Mara barked orders. Squadron 12 dragged them past the lunar shield array. A flight of human frigates darted toward the moon, enemy ships in pursuit. As they neared the far side, hidden cannons embedded in lunar rock activated. White beams tore through Dominion hulls, slicing them apart against the cratered surface. Cheers erupted on the command deck. Havel grinned. They'll think twice before chasing bait again. They won't think, Mara said grimly. They'll rage. That's when they're weakest. Below, Earth itself joined the fight. Civilian hackers overwhelmed Dominion comms, filling frequencies with relentless parody. The Overlord's declaration replayed in twisted loops, turned into songs, jokes, grotesque caricatures. Soldiers aboard Dominion ships found their own channels poisoned by human mockery. Discipline cracked. In New York, a comedian streamed live from a bunker, mocking the invasion while missiles roared overhead. In Tokyo, musicians blared parody anthems from rooftops, their voices carried by hijacked satellites straight into Dominion receivers. The world itself had become a battlefield of ridicule. Yet victory did not come cheap. Human frigates burned across the void, orbital platforms shattered under sustained fire. Casualty reports scrolled endlessly across Mara's displays. Each name was a wound, but she could not falter. Keep pressing, she commanded, even as grief threatened her voice. Every second we stand is another they fail to conquer. The Dominion pressed harder. Their ships encircled Tantalus, bombardments hammering against its shields. Sparks rained from consoles, the deck shuddered under impacts. Shields down to 60%! Yara shouted. Mara gritted her teeth. Redirect auxiliary power! And prepare the failsafe. Havel's eyes widened. You mean the overload? That'll cripple us. If it takes half their fleet with us, it's worth it, Mara said. Karath leaned forward, satisfaction creeping back as human defenses strained. See how they falter, he hissed. Soon their laughter dies. But then the unexpected struck again. Human drones, thought destroyed, regrouped in fragments. Individually useless, they fused into swarms, forming makeshift ramming clusters. They hurled themselves at Dominion capital ships, detonating in synchronized bursts. Explosions lit the void. Dominion hulls ruptured. Entire cruisers spun out of control. On Earth, billions watching live feeds erupted in cheers. Hashtags flooded, hashtag ramming speed, hashtag drone kamikaze, hashtag make them trip. The war was no longer distant, it was spectacle, resistance made viral. Tantalus shook violently under a fresh barrage. Shields flickered, sparks rained across the deck. Structural integrity down to 40%, Yara cried. Havel turned to Mara, voice urgent. We can't take another volley. Mara's gaze hardened. Then we don't. Target their flagship. The deck fell silent. You heard me, Mara said. Focus everything we have on Karatha's ship. If we cut off the head, the body falters. Weapons re-angled. Cannons charged. Railguns locked. Tantalus itself roared, unleashing a concentrated barrage. Karatha's flagship rocked under the sudden assault, its shields flaring. For the first time, cracks split across its armored hull. Karath snarled, gripping his throne. They dare strike me directly? Yes, Mara whispered. And they'll never stop daring. The battle raged for hours, Earth orbit blazing with wreckage and fire. Finally, Dominion forces began to fracture. Their lines broke, retreating into higher orbit, unwilling to press further. Dozens of alien ships smoldered in Earth's skies, debris scattering like meteors. On Tantalus, battered but still standing, Mara exhaled. Her crew slumped in exhaustion, cheers muted by grief for the fallen. Havel turned to her, voice hushed. We survived. Mara's eyes remained on the stars. No. We won. Karath sat in his throne, claws digging furrows into steel. His fleet limped in retreat, his officers silent under his rage. The humans had resisted with fewer ships, weaker weapons, yet somehow turned defiance into victory. They laugh at us, Karath hissed. They laugh, even now. And still, across his comms, the sound of human voices echoed, songs, jokes, laughter unstoppable. On Earth, celebrations erupted. Cities filled with crowds, survivors cheering under skies still glowing with fire. The cost had been terrible, but they had done what no world before them had achieved. They had faced the Dominion head-on and driven them back. In shelters, in stations, in orbiting ships, humanity spoke with one voice. We don't kneel. Mara Ellison stood on Tantalus's observation deck, watching Earth's lights blaze beneath her. Her reflection stared back, tired but unbroken. They came to silence us, she whispered. Instead, we made the galaxy hear us. For the first time since the war began, she allowed herself a small, weary smile. The battle for Earth was over. But the war, and humanity's defiance, had only just begun. The Dominion fleet hung wounded above Earth, ships scattered in ragged lines. Fires burned in orbit, debris falling like silent meteors into the atmosphere. Humanity had not been destroyed, and that truth itself was unbearable to the Threx Dominion. On Tantalus, Captain Mara Ellison leaned over the holomap. Her crew moved stiffly, exhaustion carved into their faces, but none broke. They had endured. And now came the moment to finish what had begun with laughter. Lieutenant Havel's voice cut through the silence. Dominion forces are regrouping. Numbers reduced, but still dangerous. Their flagship remains operational. Mara studied the central marker pulsing crimson, Karatha's ship. The Empire's heart of arrogance still beat. They'll never stop unless we stop him, she said. This isn't just about a fleet. It's about proving humanity cannot be broken. Karath stood on his throne, fury radiating through the chamber. Officers cowered as he roared. They defied us. They made us bleed. And they dare laugh while we retreat? His claws scraped grooves into the metal railing. One officer whispered, Supreme One, perhaps another approach. Karath struck him across the chamber with a single blow. There is only destruction. Prepare the final assault. If Earth refuses to kneel, then Earth will burn. Yet even as he gave the order, human laughter echoed faintly across his comms, a reminder that his threats were no longer absolute. Mara knew the Dominion would return for one last strike. She gathered her crew in the war room. They're coming again. This time, straight for Earth's surface. They'll try to kill the spirit they couldn't break in orbit. Her officers shifted uneasily. Commander Yara asked, How do we stop them with what's left? Our fleets are scattered. Our drones are nearly gone. Mara's eyes hardened. We stop them with what they don't understand, our refusal to quit. We fight with everything, cannons, drones, and voices. If they want silence, then we drown them in sound. Havel frowned. Sound? Broadcasts. Mockery. Every channel, every frequency, every voice on Earth. While we fight with fire, the world will laugh. Let Karath hear what he can never erase. The crew stared at her, then slowly nodded. They had seen how ridicule had shaken an empire more than weapons ever could. When the Dominion charged again, they met a storm. Earth's surviving ships rose from orbit, battered but unbroken. Tantalus lit its cannons, spearing beams into the dark. Human frigates darted like gnats, striking weak points, retreating before fire could land. But the true assault came from Earth itself. Every broadcast tower, every hack satellite, every comm system erupted with sound. Not panic. Not pleas. Laughter. Billions of voices mocking in unison. Songs twisted Karatha's declaration into children's rhymes. Jokes filled the void, crude and biting. Entire stadiums sang parodies, their voices patched into Dominion channels. Karatha's bridge filled with the noise. His officers flinched as the chorus of human ridicule poured through comms, unstoppable. Soldiers across the fleet faltered, hands shaking, discipline shredded by humiliation. Shut it out! Karath roared. Block their voices! It's everywhere, one officer stammered. Every channel, every signal, we cannot escape it. Karath's snarl deepened. Then crush their world! Silence them with fire! On Tantalus, Mara watched as Dominion ships pressed forward, weapons glowing. They're overextending, she muttered. They want to kill the sound itself. She turned to her crew. Now. Every gun we have, target their flagship. Cannons thundered. Railguns spat streaks of molten metal. Surviving drones rammed the Dominion's core ship, detonating in blossoms of light. Karath's flagship shuddered. Shields flickered, armor cracked. Still it advanced, spewing fire toward Earth. More! Mara ordered. Don't stop! Her crew obeyed, pouring every ounce of firepower into the massive vessel. Inside the flagship, chaos reigned. Sparks rained from the ceiling, consoles ruptured. Karath bellowed, refusing retreat. Forward! They must kneel! But his soldiers no longer believed. Some hesitated, others fled their posts, ears ringing with laughter that would not die. The mighty Dominion fleet fractured as crews abandoned orders, their will eroded not by fire but by ridicule. The final blow came from Tantalus itself. Captain, Havel said urgently, if we push the station's core, we can unleash everything at once. But it will cripple us. Mara looked at Earth below, then at the crimson marker of Karath's ship. She nodded once. Do it! Tantalus's core flared. Every cannon, every battery, every reserve fired in a single catastrophic volley. The blast struck Karath's flagship head-on. Shields shattered. Armor split. The great vessel tore apart in a cascade of fire, fragments scattering into the void. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Earth's frequencies erupted again, not with panic, not with fear, but with unrelenting laughter. Karath's last moments burned with disbelief. As his throne crumbled, as flames consumed his chamber, the final sound that reached him was not screams of defeat, but the laughter of the species he had sworn to break. On Tantalus, alarms blared, systems failing, but the crew erupted in cheers. They had struck down the heart of the Dominion fleet. Havel turned to Mara, voice ragged with triumph. We did it! We actually did it! Mara allowed herself a weary smile. No. We didn't. Humanity did. Every joke, every laugh, every act of defiance made this possible. She looked out the viewport. Earth glowed below, alive, unbroken. They came to kill our spirit. Instead, they made it immortal. The remnants of the Dominion fleet scattered. Without their leader, without discipline, they fled into the black, leaving wreckage behind. Humanity had not only survived, it had won. Across the planet, celebrations ignited. Crowds filled streets, voices raised in songs of defiance. Artists painted Karath's face as caricatures across skyscrapers. Comedians stood on stages, retelling the war as farce. The galaxy's greatest empire had been mocked into retreat. Later, alone on the observation deck, Mara stood in silence. Exhaustion weighed heavy, but pride burned deeper. She thought of the lives lost, of the city scarred, but also of the unity forged from laughter. Havel joined her, carrying 2 cups of bitter coffee. To survival, he said, offering one. Mara took it, raised it slightly. To laughter. The weapon they never saw coming. They stood together, watching the stars. Beyond Earth's sky lay a galaxy still dangerous, still filled with empires. But the lesson was carved into history now. Humanity would not be conquered. Not by fear. Not by force. Not by anyone. In the days that followed, Mara addressed Earth once more. Her words carried across cities, stations, and colonies. We faced an empire that ruled through terror. They thought laughter weakness. They thought defiance a joke. But in the end, it was laughter that broke them. Remember this, we are not fragile. We are not fractured. We are humanity. We laugh at fear, and we rise stronger because of it. And to any empire listening, know this, Earth does not kneel. Her words echoed through the networks, stitched into songs, etched into graffiti, carried in whispers across colonies. The Dominion's defeat had become not just a victory, but a story. As Tantalus drifted in orbit, battered but unbowed, Mara closed her eyes.